My name is Aneesha, and I'm here today to talk about Tantric Pulsation, which is, in a way, the culmination. I don't know, I wouldn't call it a culmination, but it's where my work has arrived to after 45, maybe almost 50 years of practice and teaching. And I feel that before I can really talk about Tantric Pulsation and what it is, I need to begin from my beginning in the work, in my training, and so that I can lay a kind of foundation, because Tantric Pulsation is something that's grown out of the original work that I studied when I was there. I was in my early 20s. So my training was in a work that I became very interested in when I was quite young, and that is the work of Wilhelm Reich. And Wilhelm Reich was a student of Freud, and his work spanned many, many years of psychiatry and also science, the biological sciences, the astronomical sciences, all kinds of, his work spanned many different kinds of science, but the work that interested me from the beginning was the way Reich developed his work in his psychological work, or his psychoanalysis. As a student of Freud, he was very interested in Freud's concept of the libido, the sexual energy. And because Freud sensed that there was something about vitality that underlies the human psyche, but he didn't know what it was, and he never really continued his work on the libido, because my feeling is because, in a way, dealing with sexual energy is so unmanageable in a way that he found it easier to kind of put it aside and call it the unconscious or something like that. But this idea of the libido, Wilhelm Reich picked up on that idea, and actually it became a foundation for his psychological work. And Reich was, as a person, as a human, he was very interested in sexuality. He was a very sexual person, and he enjoyed sex, and he observed the Victorian world that he grew up in as a very repressed and rigid and tightly held culture on that very wild and free libido, or sexual energy. And so because Reich was very personally involved in his own sexuality, he loved sex, and he was interested in finding out what does it all mean? What is sexuality, and how does it function through the body, and why are some people stiff and rigid, and why can other people flow and move with this energy? And so Reich, in continuation with Freud, he was looking into the past of the human being, into the early childhood, into the early development of the human, and he saw how through the process of growing up we receive all kinds of conditionings from the parents, from the society, from the education. And it's those conditionings that tell us how we should be and what we shouldn't do. And so all kinds of social norms and regulations are laid down as the child is growing up. And in that process, the child also learns how to control that life force energy that every human being is born with. But the child learns how to not show so much love to the mother, or how to not get angry with little friends or with the parents, how to hold back the tears that are touched whenever the child cries. Children are taught not to feel and not to show their feelings. So this whole conditioning that is emotional and energetic, as well as psychological, this whole conditioning takes root not only in the mind but in the body of the child. The child learns how to tighten up and hold back the anger, and to swallow down the tears, and to even prevent feelings of joy and happiness that naturally come, so that the child learns how to be a much more measured and controlled grown-up. And that whole process of learning how to control and measure and be how we should be rather than how we are, that whole process also represses the basic aliveness of the person and the sexuality of the person, so that by the time the child grows to a teenager, when the sexual energy should be flowering and coming alive, there are all kinds of prohibitions around feeling pleasure in the body, expressing joy through the body, touching, and the whole idea that our sexuality must be saved until marriage, and that all of those conditionings create a kind of rigidity around the sexual energy, the life energy that fuels our emotions and also our sexuality. And what Wilhelm Reich discovered as he worked with people, because he started to work with not only the people's minds and their psychology, but also how they held their body, how they expressed or didn't express through their body, how they spoke, the sound of the voice, whether they were breathing or not as they expressed themselves. He studied all these things, and he started to notice what people do when a sad feeling starts to come up, and they start to block it and hold it in the body. And so Reich was interested in what is that holds the tears and that holds the energy, and he started to encourage people to express their emotions. And he eventually started having people lie on the couch and talk, and then when anger came up, he would suggest, okay, express it through your body, let that energy flow. Or with the tears, or with remembered fears or traumas, he encouraged people to tremble, to breathe more deeply, to shout if they needed to. And as the people became more fluid emotionally, and their energy started flowing more easily through the body, they first of all became happier and enjoyed life a little bit more, but they also began to enjoy their sexuality in ways that they never did before, and started to explore pleasurable feelings through the body. So Reich put a lot of energy into understanding how sexual energy, emotional energy, life energy, how all of these things are connected in the human body, mind, spirit. And so this is the work that interested me. I started reading Reich, and I entered a training. I was fortunate to find a training in the work, and I studied and practiced and did my own work. It had my own inner exploration of emotion and energy, and also had my own experience of how my own sexual energy, my own capacity to enter into the flow of sexual energy became much brighter, much clearer, much more accessible to me. And that was fun too. I was young, in my 20s, in a world where the sexual revolution was just beginning to bubble, and I started reading Reich, and he was encouraging all of that. So I became a Reichian therapist, a neo-Reichian therapist. I trained at a place called the Radix Institute with a man called Charles Kelley in Southern California. And so then I set out to practice for a couple of years, and I was also fortunate enough to begin to work at Esalen Institute in California, and in that way I became exposed to the whole human potential movement that was flowering in California and spreading throughout various places in the world. And through my experiences, the people I met at Esalen, I heard about Osho, who was then called Bhagwan Rajneesh, who was a spiritual teachers, a meditation teacher, a master who lived in India. And as I learned about what Osho was teaching through his meditations, which were very much body-oriented, body-engaged, energy-engaged meditations, I realized that, because I was very much interested also in finding a spiritual master for guidance, for learning, and what I was hearing from Osho was very much supporting the same things I had learned from the Reichian work about living your life to the fullest, enjoying your life, enjoying the pleasures of the body, and celebrating life. These kinds of qualities that come from Osho's meditations, which move the life energy through the body. So I was attracted to Osho as my spiritual master because it just felt like this was my next step in my work. So I went to Pune, to India, to be with Osho, and I ended up staying there for many, many years, more than 20 years, living really in his presence, and developed my Reichian work in the context of Osho's multiversity, where he was having us teach the importance of working not only therapeutically but also with meditation. So he was interested in bringing together these kind of two wings of personal growth, a kind of combination of working with the conditioning, the releasing of the old conditioning, as well as bringing in meditation, which is a process that can just take our awareness deeper and deeper inside and into a connection with ourselves. And so for me, the work of Tantric Pulsation is very much comes out of the work of pulsation, which is the name that I gave to my Reichian work as I was working in Osho's Buddha field. And so the work of pulsation, which I worked with deeply for many, many years with really thousands of people, had to do with helping people to release the blocks, to release the tensions, to release the rigidities in the body that prevent living fully, with full aliveness, with full presence. And so I worked for many years with the Reichian emotional release work, deep work with the body and the breath to move the emotional energies, to express what has been unexpressed. And that understanding of liberating feeling, liberating energy, combined with the qualities of stillness and silence and depth of meditation, opened many new doors in me, in my understanding, in my thinking. And as I listened to Osho daily over many, many years, and also studied many of his teachings about Tantra and some of the ancient practices that worked on this very same life energy that we work with today in pulsation, and that Osho works with in his dynamic meditation, in his Kundalini meditation. So for me, the pulsation work, which opens the blocks, which clears what stands in the way of aliveness, that awareness that that comes deeper into the body through that pulsation work. That also opens the capacity for pleasure. When we release the negativity, when we release our fears, our angers, our pains, that opens a space where we can drop deeper into more positive feelings, more lightness, more flow, more ease with ourselves and with others. So I have learned really from practicing this quality of meditation, and brought that more and more into my work, into the Reichian work, and it's like I've discovered that the body, the inner feelings in the body, the capacity for sensitivity is such a natural way for us to connect with the quality of meditation and silence and presence inside. And so as I have practiced the pulsation work, I've also become aware of the more subtle and positive energies that can also be worked with and focused on and liberated even more fully. It's like once we take off take out the blocks and the holding and the rigidity of the body, we start to become more sensitive to the energy that flows through the body and the joyful feelings that are there in the body. And this, when we can connect this energy with our intimate meetings with the other, when we start to bring this awareness of our inner energy together with another person, we begin to find ways of sharing this energy that is pleasurable, that is joyful, that is full of freedom, full of aliveness. So the work of Tantric Pulsation is actually beginning to open subtler doorways and windows to begin to connect more deeply with our own energy, and also to feel how that energy dances with another person. So we start to, Tantric Pulsation helps us to feel a kind of oneness within ourselves, within our own energy, and it also begins to help us become aware of the subtle flows, the subtle energies, the subtle nuances in another. And that's the tantric quality of it. So the tantric part of pulsation comes because it's a work that is really working to open the doorways to pleasure. Whereas in the pulsation work, we've done in a way the pre-opening. We've released layers of fight and resistance and negativity, so that this is where it becomes hard to explain. I can talk to some extent in outer ways about the potential experiences of Tantric Pulsation, but it's not so easy to talk about it, to put it in words. And so that's why this work that I do is so experiential. I can't really lecture about it very well. I have to, take people through the experience of it, because Tantric Pulsation is an experience. We can talk about it only so far. And then we start to tap into a mysterious place that is very hard to describe, and it's not a rational happening. It's something that's more connected to intuition and the irrational and the unknown and the universal. So that's sort of a little bit of background coming from here and there, but I want to see what questions maybe you can ask that can direct my thinking.
Yeah, this point is...